and one of the founders of DAISY. Tina serves as the Vice President of Marketing and Public Relations, and her leadership, her dedication, and her grace have been a guiding light for DAISY for the past 24 years. Thank you so much. Tina. This morning I'd like to welcome and thank Sigma President Dr. Ken Dion. And I don't think Dr. Sandra Bibb is our President-elect, and Chief Nursing Officer Dr. Sarah Gray. We are grateful for your partnership and for your collaboration. Thank you so much. To tell you about before we begin our program. As of this morning, DAISY is 6,200 healthcare and university nursing schools strong. We honor 6,200, let me say that again. In 6,200 organizations and universities, nurses are honored with the DAISY Award, and that's also in 41 countries. You are members of a global DAISY community that is growing daily and sharing nurses' extraordinary and compassionate care. You are shining a light on the right in healthcare and showcasing the differences that nurses, educators, students, and teams make in their community. Our community of DAISY honorees is now 210,000 nurses strong, and to date, 2.5 million times a family, a student, or a colleague has taken the time to share a nurse's extraordinary work by writing a DAISY nomination. If you have been nominated for a DAISY Award or are the recipient of a DAISY Award, will you please stand? Thank you for your extraordinary work. Today I want to give special thanks to Chamberlain University for their generous support of this breakfast and so much more. We recently celebrated our 10th anniversary with Chamberlain as our founding educational partner. Their mission and vision of caring makes them a natural partner for us. They are dedicated to person-centered care and to an inspirational learning environment for both students and faculty. Early next year, DAISY and Chamberlain are going to release a course entitled Journey to Extraordinary and Compassionate Care. It will be a 3-module course available on demand, and participants will receive 3.5 CEUs. Learners will reflect on the motivators that led them into healthcare and how to cultivate a meaningful and healing relationship in their daily practice. Today from Chamberlain University, we have Dr. Danica Bowen, and also included are Justin Hamilton and Erica Butler. Thank you for your partnership and your support. In our never-ending drive to ensure that DAISY stays relevant and meaningful to you, we have 3 exciting updates in our DAISY program. In 2010, we first introduced the Faculty Award. Since then, 450 schools of nursing have honored faculty and students with the DAISY Award. Nurses now practice in a much more expansive, continuum, and complex environment. While education may begin in schools of nursing, it continues virtually in every setting where you will find a nurse. So with the support of the American Association of Colleges of Nursing, the National League of Nursing, the Organization for Associate Degree Nurses, and of course Sigma, I'm excited to announce that the DAISY Award for Extraordinary Faculty will become the DAISY Award for Extraordinary Nurse Educators. This inclusive recognition honors every nurse educator or in practice. We urge undergraduate and graduate students, preceptees, residents, and clinicians to nominate educators for their dedication to strengthening the practice and patient care. We invite you to share those inspiring stories of teaching, mentoring, and compassion and caring. We hope you agree that elevating nurse educators' visibility, and shining a light on your outstanding work to help support the recruitment, retention, and engagement of all. Our second announcement is also exciting. In 2022, just a year ago, the ANA Center for Ethics and Human Rights and DAISY launched the DAISY Award for Nursing Ethics in Practice and in Leadership. We invited our partner organizations to select honorees in their facilities who used ANA's Code of Ethics to address challenging situations. These stories bring to life the Code of Ethics and have been truly inspiring. When we launched this program with ANA, our shared vision was to present awards at the organization level, state, and national levels. So today I am excited to tell you that the first ANA DAISY Award for Ethics in Practice and Leadership will be presented on the National Nursing Ethics Conference in Los Angeles next April. So we're thrilled about that. We invite you to consider nominating DAISY honorees through the lens of the ANA Code of Ethics for this national award. Nominations are now open, and you can find more information on our website, daisyfoundation.org. Lastly, I am thrilled to share with you that we are increasing our funding of research projects and evidence-based practice projects to $10,000 each. We are proud to support nurses advancing research for treating patients with cancer, autoimmune diseases, and addressing social determinants of health. So please keep us as a potential funding source for your research and evidence-based practice. Again, you can find more information about this on our website, daisyfoundation.org. It is now a pleasure to tell you about our featured presentation today. We will be talking to an extraordinary educator and her dean, who also has an incredible background of her own. You will hear from several of her nursing students from them and come to understand why we have titled this presentation, They Are My Why. So I would like to invite to the stage Dean of Charleston Southern University, Dr. Vicki Ball, and Professor Lori Tisdale. Well, congratulations, Professor Tisdale. Professor Tisdale is the recipient of the DAISY Faculty Award, and she had a huge number of nominations when she received her award. And I want to just share with you what she posted, and I was able to read on social media. She said, "I am humbled and honored that my students took the time to write these submissions to recognize me for the DAISY Award, when they are the ones that motivate me every day. They are my why." And what she does with every new class is talk to them about her why. So Lori, tell us about your why.
Thank you, Deb. Good morning, everybody. So I like to start students every semester, and I tell them my pre-nursing story, what got me into nursing in the first place. And many years ago, I was active duty in the Air Force, and my husband and I were stationed out in northern Utah. And we had our firstborn daughter, Rachel Birdie. And I was not healthcare at all. I had no medical knowledge. I like to say I flew a desk at the time, and because I sat at a desk, I did not fly a plane. And when Rachel was born, she was diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy. And I see a lot of head nods. And so we spent a lot of time in and out of the hospital. She was a type 1, and from diagnosis to her last days, nurses are what made the difference. There was a nurse, and this is 18, 19 years ago now. I still see her face when we got the diagnosis, and she had other patients. And she sat and cried with me for 3 hours, and helped me. the nurses who taught us how to do all of the equipment that we were going to go home with. Not just how to use it, but empowered us to make us feel like we actually could do this on our own. The nurses who reminded us to eat when we were in the hospital for 12 straight days, and even though only one parent was supposed to be at the bedside, snuck us extra blankets and pillows so that we could make a pallet on the floor. Reminded us to go see the sunshine. Those nurses made a world of difference for us. And the Air Force moved us to Charleston to be closer to family after Rachel had passed. And I spent the next several months and years trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and I realized I wanted to do that for other people. I wanted to take that experience that I had with Rachel and those nurses and provide that for other families. And I felt like she was truly my why. I felt like that was part of her legacy to pass on. And so I share that with students because I want them to know, nursing is not just about passing meds and doing a head-to-toe assessment and, checking those boxes that we're doing all these checkoffs on. It's so much more than that. And so when I get to see them hold a baby for the first time or figure out why this Erickson stage actually applies to a patient, why we actually learn this. When I see them ask a parent, would you like to go get a cup of coffee while I play with your child? That's huge. And so, so the students have become my why because I get to see Rachel's legacy live on through them.
And why do you talk to your students about that?
Because nursing is a truly holistic piece. It is not, again, it's not just the skills and the checkoffs and the memorizing of data. Nursing is about caring for the whole person, the whole family, and building those bonds. And nursing care is not just about the diagnosis and the treatment, but those other interventions matter so much more. And so it's really amazing when I see them get that response when they're interacting with the family as well.
Most nurses will say they don't choose nursing for the good pay and the good hours. And certainly in academia, there's an even greater divide, right?
Absolutely.
Something we need to correct for sure. Tell me, why do you stay in academia?
Oh, I have the absolute best students on the planet, for number one. I'm first off, I should say I'm very grateful for a supportive family that definitely makes it help, that understands the sacrifices, but they also see the joy that my students bring me every day. I have a 16-year-old at home as well, my husband and I adopted, and I've never honestly been this grateful in a position in my life. I get to see these students thrive. I get to see them with those light bulb moments that we all adore, and those are what get you through the hard days, right? Nothing is perfect, but this job, you get to see them make that next step. When I see them in their, sophomore year, and then I see them again in their senior year, it's incredible to go, holy cow, they're ready. They're going to go take care of me one day. They're going to go take care of my family one day, and I know they can. I'm confident in the future of nursing. When I see them perform something, we work on a skill and skills lab over and over again, and they're not getting it, and then they get it. That's really exciting. So the pay clearly could be improved, but I think we could all say that. But at the same time, it's absolutely worth it when I get out of bed every day, and I still feel 5 years into education, I'm in the pinch me, this isn't real. I absolutely love what I do, and I'm super grateful that I get that opportunity.
Wow. We're excited that you're educating our next generation.
Thank you.
There was actually an outpouring of congratulations on social media when Lori was a recipient of this award. In fact, one was a retired general and president of a competing university. So I was like, holy moly, when I read that, I was like, oh my God, what is Vicki going to say about that? And we did have a chance to talk about it, and I'm sure hear about that later, but tell me what your leadership really means to you, and why is it important?
So I will say, throughout my career, I feel incredibly blessed to have amazing leadership. I went into academia, or I went back and got my master's in nursing education at the encouragement of one amazing manager who noticed that I loved precepting, and I always volunteered to be the preceptor, especially for the new grads. And so she's the one that said, hey, you need to go back and get your MSN. And that's where I found Charleston Southern. And as a student at Charleston Southern, getting my master's degree, I was like, wow, these faculty are really positive. They really support me. They know how to integrate faith into what we're doing, which is important to me. And they motivate me and inspire me and push me, and I really like these folks. And I had an amazing experience there. And it was my first time as I was a part of a faith-based institution. And so I spent some time in nursing education on the hospital side, and I thought it was for me, and realized it was not filling my bucket, so to speak. And so I was fortunate to be able to get hired at Charleston Southern a few years later, and that's where, again, amazing leadership. Dr. Vicki Ball, our dean, our directors have been so key on, yes, we don't get paid very well, but let's look at some other things. How can we really have this amazing work-life balance? How can we build a positive work culture? How can we have this amazing group of individuals who collaboratively not only want to make sure our students are getting the absolute best education, but we're role modeling all of those things that we want to see in them. We're role modeling, we're walking the walk and talking the talk. Our university, we say we're integrating faith through leading, learning, and serving. And when you see your leadership walk that walk and talk that talk, it makes you that much motivated to keep doing it yourself. So I'm very, very grateful. Again, I will say to have a leader who now has pushed me to start working on my D&P. So I'm now in that road. Sometimes I'm not as joyous when I'm up at 11:30 at night working on assignments, but I absolutely love the program I'm in. And I wouldn't have started doing that quite as soon if it wasn't for amazing leadership as well. So.
Well, thank you. And before we talk to you, Vicki, what I'd love for you to see is some of the feedback from our students. So, Mark, thanks. Oops. One-man show back there. Thank you, Mark.
My name is Anna Grace Crosby. I attend Charleston Southern University, and I am a 5th semester nursing student, so I will be graduating in May of 2024.
Hi, my name is Felicia, and I'm a senior nursing student. I have a semester and a half left with hopefully graduating in May of 2024, as long as everything goes to plan.
My name is Ashley Capers, and I'm a registered nurse. I just became a registered nurse this August 2023, and I work at NUSC in endocrine and infectious disease.
She taught me so much, but what stood out to me the most about her was there was a particular day where I was just having a very hard clinical. I just saw a lot of things that I was not expecting to see. I wasn't prepared, and she took the time and about 15 to 20 minutes just sat down with me and just let me talk to her, and then she just kind of gave me her perspective and gave me some advice on how to handle tough situations as nurses. She just provided a listening ear for me, and to me it spoke highly about who she was and her character and who she was, not only as a professor, but as a person.
So Professor Tisdale is such a genuine human being. She is always having her door open for you if you need anything, literally anything, if it's school or if it's anything that is personal, she is always willing to help, and she'll give 110% every time you ask her something. And she just wants to see her students succeed, both academically and in their personal lives. So it's been really refreshing to have a professor that is so involved and invested in the students on so many different levels.
I know Professor Tisdale from nursing school. She was one of my professors. She taught pediatrics, and I know she has a passion for pediatrics. And I just loved being in her classes. She was always so accessible to the students.
Immediate thought went to Miss Tisdale. I mean, truly, she is the kindest human that has such a servant's heart, wants to serve students and patients and families, and she truly is, I mean, the best nurse and teacher I could have ever hoped to ever be able to work with.
My nomination was kind of highlighting her personality in relation to her teaching and her investment in her students. And I wanted her to kind of get that recognition because her work that she's doing, she's always giving so much effort and energy into everything she does. Nothing that she does goes unnoticed, and she's very, very kind in her approach. And if there's something like you need to talk about, she will take the time to sit down with you.
I nominated Professor Tisdale for the Daisy Award because she's always so dedicated to her work, to her career, and she's always there for the students, always giving encouraging words, and always smiling. Even if she was going through something, she always smiled and went the extra mile for the students.
Number one, be intentional. So I feel like she's always been so intentional with me. I mean, I'm not just a number, I'm a name to her, and she is going to make sure that she asks me how I'm doing and check up on me. I would say joyful. She always has a smile on her face, and like I have. She, in class, for exams, during clinical, just the most joyful person. And then compassionate. She is very, you can tell that she is with patients, but just as much with her students.
So 3 words I would describe Ms. Tisdale would be genuine, holistic, and helpful.
Okay, I would say Professor Tisdale is courageous, she is joyful, and I would say she's very dedicated to her students.
Honestly, just thank you. You have shaped how I want to be a nurse. When I was down and I felt like I couldn't do it anymore, you encouraged me and were the reason that I kept going. Truly could not be more grateful to have had you as a professor, and I hope to one day be just like you throughout my nursing career.
Ms. Tisdale, I want to thank you for everything that you have done for me and how you have helped me through this nursing school journey. Thank you for always bringing a positive attitude to everything that you do, and for always being there for anyone who might need you.
Thank you for teaching us that it was very tedious to measure and be accurate about peas because they're little and I appreciate that. So now I'm not scared to work peas because Professor Tisdale helped me to build my confidence with it. I would say, Professor Tisdale, I love you and thank you for doing such a great job and teaching me what I need to know. And you are just the best anyone could ask to be in their life as a professor. And thank you so much for all that you do for all the students and the children that you take care of.
What a time for us. Lord has seen that this morning, so Lord. You're doing good, man. I know we should have brought tissues up here. Well, great job.
Thank you.
So, Vicki, thank you. Vicki is retired lieutenant colonel, Dean of the School of Nursing, and we want to thank you for your service, and you too, Lori. We just celebrated Veterans Day, and we really are just so thrilled that you represented both the country and our profession. So, Vicki, tell us about Lori and what made you see her as an educator.
Sure. Well, first of all, one thing I can tell you is she is very uncomfortable right now. Because she is the epitome of humility. And people who have a lot of humility, I mean, this is uncomfortable to hear. But I think we need to say it, and that's the beauty of Daisy, right? I met Lori probably, let's see, been with us about 5 years as an educator. Maybe a couple of years before that, you graduated from Merit. We have a Master of Science in Nursing, nurse educator, and then a nurse leader track. And so Lori was actually my student. At the time, I was the director of the graduate program. And Lori's actually one of those students that you wanted to read her assignments. You know what I'm talking about, right? There are some that you're like, I need a cup of coffee. I need to, before I read this. Lori was one of those students. I mean, I was her student in many ways because I was reading about the things that she was learning as she was going through that journey. And she is just an absolute exceptional nurse. And that came across in her education as a nurse educator. So I met her then. And then I found out, of course, now as soon as she graduated, we tried to hire her. I mean, like the day she was at her pinning, we're like, so, we have this position. But she was committed to her job at the time, and we certainly respected that. But I was so grateful a couple of years later when she really felt a call to come into nursing education. And she and I share the Air Force background, so I can tell you that I know without a doubt Lori epitomizes what are still the Air Force core values, and that's integrity first, excellence in all we do, and service before self. And so we never forget that when we get out of the Air Force, and that's just part of our DNA. But I think it's also part of the DNA of nurses as well. So full of humility, full of compassion, but she's the fun educator. She is so creative. I mean, students love to go to her class. She does so many unique things to engage them in learning. She's not going to be the one that stands up there and is the sage on the stage that just drones on and on. She's going to figure out a way to really engage the students, and and she's vulnerable to them. Obviously, she shared her own story, and I think that just takes such a special type of humility to be able to make yourself vulnerable to the students, and they obviously very much respect that.
Well, thank you. I know, Vicki, that a healthy work environment is really important for you, as is meaningful recognition.
Right.
Why is that so important in a university and academic setting?
Well, I think I'll give you a little backstory from our experience, because I never expected to be in the seat that I'm in. Never sought it out, and in December of 2021, our dean and our undergraduate program director left our university, middle of the academic year, left for other positions. And so that was really difficult on our faculty, and we had a little bit of an identity crisis. And we set out as a faculty to just do two things that next year. I was able to sit in the interim role, and I said, okay, we know we got to prep our students for the next gen NCLEX, because that's coming. And so we want to keep our NCLEX pass rates up. And then we also want to create a culture where our students, our staff, and our faculty feel loved and valued and appreciated. And so our interim undergraduate program director, then Sarah Hathcott, came to me and she said, we need to do Daisy. And I'm like, Daisy for educators? I mean, I had my head in books for years. I didn't realize that there was Daisy for educators. And I'm like, absolutely, let's do Daisy. And so, of course, Lori is always the first one to volunteer, right? So we said, we need a committee for Daisy. And so Lori raised her hand, I'll do it. Again, that humility, right? And so we had a committee of faculty who started that. And then it turned out, of course, Lori had so many nominations, we ended up having to kind of outsource that to some of our other health science folks to make sure that that was fair. selecting the faculty member. That's kind of our backstory. Is we realized that if we were going to keep good people in education, we had to figure out a way to recognize them, and a meaningful way to recognize them. And I think for all of us, we all need to realize that the people who work with us and for us are volunteers. They can go anywhere they want. They can, as educators, people take usually a pretty large pay cut to come into education. And they come into it for the reasons that are most important, and that is because they want to grow the next generation of nurses, because they, and I don't have to tell you this, I'm sure that as educators, whether you're a clinical educator, an academic educator, or an administration or a clinical nurse, you recognize that we have got to, it's going to take everything we have to grow this next generation of nurses. And so I think recognizing that people can go anywhere they want, there's however many hundreds of jobs that everyone could have on any given day as a nurse, that they're volunteering their career in education. And so DAISY provides that vehicle to actually have meaningful recognition. It's not just a pat on the back, it's a formal, it's a structured process. And one of the best things about it is, for us, it gives our students the vehicle to recognize faculty. We love recognizing them, but it gives them a little bit of power to say, hey, you know what, this is what I saw in this educator, and I think this person needs to be recognized. And of course, as you heard, the nominations just rolled in for Lori, but also for many of our other faculty. And Lori and her committee has arranged like a breakfast each semester where we have, for our nominees, and we read the nominations. And there is not a dry eye in the house, Sarah, as we were talking earlier, when you start to hear the impact students and faculty are making on patients and families and communities. It's so needed, because we're so good at taking care of other people. To be able to hear that, because people just think, well, it's just my job. But DAISY provides the opportunity so that the ordinary, what people think is ordinary, it's just my job, it rises to the level of extraordinary. And I think it's just so good for people to get that little bit of gratitude turned back on them for what they do.
Yeah, thank you. Now, we talked a little bit about this when we were, kind of preparing for this. And what can we do as a profession, and what can society do to really raise up the profound impact of educators? Any thoughts on that?
Sure. Well, we have a few vacancies, if anybody's interested. I'm sure everyone does. I think that we are, and I go back to my Air Force roots on this, certainly we're all in this together, raising up this new generation. And healthcare over the years has just gotten harder in many ways. And so there's so much ugly that we have to deal with, so many struggles that we have to deal with, challenges in healthcare, that we really need to kind of lock arms with each other and get out of our silos, not academics and it's not academics and then clinical care, right? We all are in this together, truly. And to your point, yes, we're teaching students skills. Yes, we're teaching, giving students, helping them develop knowledge and develop critical thinking and all those things. But also, the thing that I don't ever remember hearing when I was a student, and that we deal with on a daily basis now, and you all do as well, is just creating someone who is going to be resilient, who is going to be able to overcome the challenges and get through the ugly so they can get to the beauty of nursing. And so I think as a community of nurses, nurse educators, clinicians, administrators, we need to share ideas with each other. We have on our advisory council, we have clinicians and administrators who tell us, when we ask them, what do we need to do to prepare these students better? And they tell us. And so we have faculty who sit on committees in clinical areas, so they can see what the challenges are at the clinical level. So I think just recognizing that we all together are creating these, I'll call them healthcare warriors, students, graduate nurses who have the tools, who are equipped with the tools they need for resilience to be able to care for the challenges, the challenging patients and things they're going to deal with. So I think just recognizing that we're not in a silo, that we are all part of the same profession, and we all need to talk to each other and network and consider all the things that we can do to help these students get ready for the profession.
I also think we're good as a profession talking to one another. Often we don't celebrate the wonderful work, and then we talk to ourselves in the rare times that we celebrate. So this work, and Lori and you and everyone here, it's time to really help others see the great work and really celebrate all that you really do as educators. So it really is just wonderful. I see the difference that you make. Now, I do, in some of our earlier talks, we talked, part of Dr. Ball's research is in different ways of education, and one of her research projects is on an escape room. And I was like, what the heck is that? I know you have this military background, but why don't you tell them?
Sure. So, well, we know that their students are not, students are built different, right? And the students of today are built different, and they have grown up in a very much, grown up being entertained, largely. Gaming is very important. But I started to look at research about how to, really energize some of the methods we were using in the classroom and in our simulation lab and clinical. And so there was already research about using gaming, breakout gaming, escape room, whatever you want to call it, which is essentially using kind of puzzles and different critical thinking type exercises to reinforce content that you've taught. And as a faculty, we said, let's go do an escape room, because we had never done an escape room. So we took our faculty and we did just a local escape room. And we realized while we were doing it, we can bring this into the classroom. We can bring this into education, and students are going to love it. And so we do it a lot of different ways. We have some that are just in the classroom. Maybe we have like some lock boxes, and there are certain tasks that students have to do in order to get to the lock box, or it's a sequential type of clues they have to find. It's all healthcare related, all related to the content in whatever class they're doing. And we use it in like our clinical lab sometimes as well too. And you can take the most disengaged student, the student who sits at the back of the classroom and does this, and like impress me, kind of, I know, I'm sure none of you have students like that, but we have one or two, right? And so you can take the students who, and as soon as you say, okay, let's get in a group and do group work, and they all go, right? But if you bring it, you frame it in a game, and a breakout game, and now you've got them in groups and they're competing against each other. You can just see the body language. They're leaning in, they're talking to each other. The one that didn't say anything all semester has this wealth of knowledge that you had no idea, and now it's coming out. And so we find that it's helping them learn teamwork, collaboration, critical thinking, all those skills that are very hard to just teach in a traditional classroom. So we found it to be really helpful. The students love it, and it is definitely a way for them to engage with the content. And so that's why we've started doing that.
Well, I had to ask when I read about that. Is there anything that I have not asked, either Vicki or Lori?
I'll let you go first.
I just think our students today obviously have grown up in a very, very different world than I think most of us have. They've lived in a different time period. I love to go into my, look at how different generations, what they faced, what era did you grow up in, and that really does impact who you are. I also, in addition to teaching peds, I teach lifespan development, so all that good Erickson Piaget stuff and generational things. And they're certainly constantly changing, and they've grown up. These students are post-COVID students, and obviously they are in a very different place than the students that I taught literally just 5 years ago. It's night and day what I've seen, and the things that they're strong in, and the things that they're weaker in than maybe I'm used to. But ultimately, we still have the same end goal. And so whether it's getting creative, whether it's thinking outside the box, and just really getting to know them, I think that ultimately that's what we have to do. If we get to know who they are and their individual needs, their individual characteristics, by figuring out what those are, we can still get them to that end goal. It just might be a different path. Again, and I'm seeing this just in my 5-year career. It's a different path to get them there, but we can still get them there. It's just some different challenges. But the fact that they want to be nurses now tells you a lot about them. They've seen the COVID, they've seen the burnout, they've seen all the issues on the news in healthcare in general, and they still want to do it. And if that's not empowering for us, I don't know what is.
Well
I think
said.
that's amazing.
Well said. Vicki, any last thoughts?
I would just piggyback on what Lori said. I was actually thinking the same thing. I was in the military when 9/11 happened, and what brought people into the military and into military healthcare at that time was often, well, I can get money to go back to graduate school, or well, I'll be serving my country, and it'll be a good way to get used to healthcare in a little bit different environment. So there were different reasons people came in the military. And the kind of generalized thought was, well, maybe we'll have to deploy, but we weren't at war at the time other than just kind of Cold War things. And so we were quite a few years from the Vietnam conflict at that point. So people were coming into the military for a variety of reasons, as they still do. But then 9/11 happened. And the people who ran to the military at that time, I think, were very special because they knew, okay, this is, people don't like us. They want to hurt us, and they want to hurt Americans, but yet they ran to the military. That's a special group of people that are still serving in the military now. And I think the same thing as Lori said about our nursing students. Let me encourage you to tell you, I know sometimes you hear things about Gen Z, and they're a little different, and we say it all the time, they're built different. That's true. But these are, as Lori said, people who chose nursing after seeing the curtain pulled back on how rough nursing is, what it really looks like. You saw it on social media, which is where they all live, right? You saw it on social media, you saw it on the news, and yet they still chose nursing because I believe they really feel called to that. And so they're a special group, a very special group of people, and I think Daisy helps us kind of honor that, right? But also as a profession, I think we need to just wrap our arms around them and realize that, as Lori said, maybe their path's a little different, but they are committed, and or they wouldn't be in nursing school because they know what nursing can look like, and they still come.
Well, Vicki and Lori, thank you so much for being here and reminding us of our tied purpose. For us in nursing, our joy is making those human connections. And you remind us of why we're here and how our goal is to really raise up the health and wellness, and we can only do that with a strong workforce. And we as a profession need to continue to celebrate all the great things that, the great work that's accomplished each and every day. And I want to say to each and every one of you, thank you for your great work. The last 3-4 years has been incredibly challenging, and your perseverance, your dedication, your ability to teach and practice and really has made a difference. At the front lines, there has always been a nurse. and there continues to be. And now is our time to have that opportunity for the public to shine that light and to really celebrate all the great work that nursing accomplishes so that we can really facilitate the redesign of healthcare. I want to thank you for sharing with us your story, and thank each and every one of you for coming. Before we close, I invite Dr. Danica Bowen, who is the Vice President of Operations and Innovative Strategies and Solutions at Chamberlain, to just say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a tough act to follow. Oh my goodness. Good morning, everyone. I'll be candid. I think if this breakfast was at 4 a.m., I would be here. And I think many of you in this room feel the exact same way. It's just such an important time. And to be able to hear these messages and have it be resonating among all of us about all being on the same page. I have the privilege at Chamberlain University to partner very closely with the Daisy Foundation. As shared earlier, we've been partnering for 10 years in terms of Daisy Awards. But in addition, we go a little bit further. We're also partnering on academic research associated with meaningful recognition, which is an absolute joy. We're also partnering on the Journey to Extraordinary Compassionate Care. Such a fun course to be building. Not only is it have the Daisy stories throughout, but it's about theories of caring, which is so important. And it's interesting to go back to the theories and really do a deep dive in that area. So that's just been an incredible honor to be partnering with the Daisy Foundation in the creation of it. It's interesting. The message today is about going back to the why. And I think all of us in the room have our why. My why was 2 years ago. I've been involved in nursing for a very long time, as I shared, 20 years with the Oregon Chamberlain organization. But the why hits a little bit differently when it's a family member, when it's yourself, and navigating that journey, if you will. So 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And there were some tremendous takeaways, and I'm so grateful for that process. What I can share is that I don't remember what I ate for breakfast. Like most of you, don't you feel like you kind of are running around? But the faces of the nurses are etched, like etched. I'm gonna make myself old, the etchy sketch? I got it. Whether it be in peri-op, whether it be in infusion, whether it be in radiology, it's etched. So thank you for everything that you do. Thank you to the Daisy Foundation for recognizing nurses, and just incredibly grateful to be here this morning. I wish all of you a wonderful conference, and thank you for coming this morning.
Enjoy. Still a little more conversation, and thank you all for being with us this morning.
Oh.